Are we ready? Hi, everybody. We're at Good Wellington. First, I'd like to introduce our team before we go any further. And we've had a keynote-related technical issue. Right, well, we have a team. We have Pepper over here, who is one of our designers. We also have Miles Thompson, who is our developer. We've got Dana, who is also a designer. And then we've got me. I'm the sort of non-technical in the bunch. I've got a background in a bunch of things. We've all also been involved in, or are actively involved in, a number of community-related projects all over New Zealand. Miles, for example, is the founder of the Kapiti Time Bank, and you're going to find out quite quickly why that is relevant. The purpose of our group is quite simple and quite community-driven. We would like to help communities include their more marginalized and undervalued members. We would also like to help them build resilience around, for example, disaster recovery and economic downturns and disasters. We feel that helping solve these problems is good, wonderful. Next slide. This is really slowing things down. Right, so time banking is a very useful way of building community resilience. I don't know if you know about Littleton down in Christchurch, but that was a very important community after the earthquakes. How does time banking work? Well, basically an hour of anybody's time is worth an hour of anybody else's time. It's a very simple system based around sharing skills and time without using money at all, which we think seems pretty fair. So basically, Joe could help Mary with her, car for an hour. Mary could then go and help Martha with her housework for an hour. Martha could go and babysit for an hour. So, meet Sarah. Sarah is the Hutt South Time Bank coordinator. Lovely looking lady, very friendly. And this is the horror that she and her members are faced with every time they log in to do time banking. As you can see, this is the category system. Nobody uses it because this is a small part of it. There's no newsfeed, no notifications, no alert system. You have to log in every time you want to know if there's been any change. It's also the only currently existing system. It's built on something called Community Weaver 2 out of the States. Another coordinator described it as useful for banking your time credits, but not certainly for building engagement or communities around time banking. This was Sarah's response when we spoke to her about building new software. We heard this a lot from all of the time banking people we spoke to. So we'd like to introduce Good Wonderful. As you can see, it integrates with popular social media platforms, although, because we're aware of who might be involved, you don't have to be on these systems in order to join in. This is what you see when you do join. The time banks you're involved with, a map of the skills in your community and where they are. In this case, Shelley gets to see her most recent thank yous. Thank yous will be very, very public, shareable, very visible. She gets to see a little bit about herself. Notifications up in the top left hand. Notifications in a newsfeed was something that everybody wanted. That was their winning feature set, I guess. For small time banks and new time banks, all activity will show up in people's newsfeeds as they scale up, as they get bigger, or there's more activity. An open source, transparent algorithm that we're developing will start kind of like Facebook, but not at all. We'll start to selectively show activity with using metrics like level of engagement in the community, for example. We're going for positive feedback loops here. Now, how do we make it work? We know this is a big thing for everybody. Prepare to be surprised. Hosting. Hosting initially will cost very little to nothing, particularly with sponsorship deals, but should this scale the way we think it could, maybe $200 a month. The time banks currently pay $10 a month per time bank for the Community Weaver software, which they hate, and which actively stops people engaging. So we can cover the hosting costs. Business, for example, people like me involved in, ideation, helping to run it, helping to sell it, helping people to implement it, maybe 30 hours a month. And we're going to reward ourselves with the system that we're helping to build and improve. So in hours. Both of these things we think are good. And then rewarding designers and developers, not with bug reports and complaints, but instead with hours and love and thank yous. We think that's wonderful. So do they, I have to say. They're pretty chuffed. So we're going to start small and simply. We're going to start with the 28 time banks in New Zealand that we know are very keen with the idea. We're also going to pay ourselves in the system. And then there's huge amounts of potential. I think the most exciting thing is GitHub, who we spoke to today with 3 million active users, who want something exactly like this. and would love to use it. Thank you. Sorry about the lost time there. That's a bit of a video of a click through on the framework we've actually built. There is something there. Prototype, yes. Questions?
Sounds fabulous. My only question is, if you're the developer building it and you've spent 300 hours and then it doesn't quite work and you spend another 100 hours and you're getting all those time bank hours, which is wonderful, but you actually can't use them all up because you don't actually need so much as it's actually spending you in time. There might come a time when you burn out. How do you handle that?
I'm going to pass over to Miles, the developer.
So we've made an estimate, which is obviously pretty loose, as you do with development estimates, but let's say we've got 1.5 developers and a business person. We added all those hours and we figure it's whatever the number was, 120 hours a month, I forget what the number was. That would be $5 hours per time bank. So if there was a button in the system that said, donate to the people who built this, we think we can average 5 hours per time bank for the 15 time banks that have responded and said they want this. If there was 28 time banks, there would be more hours accruing, and the system would basically mean that the developers would feel honoured more than they would just on an open source project. But we also get all the benefits of an open source project. They get to have their code out there and prove their skills.
With lots of platforms like this, the critical mass of users becomes, if you're trading something, basically a currency time, backwards and forwards. What's the time to that, usable mass?
All right, so initially, as I said, we're going to start quite small and quite simply, certainly so that we can optimize and sort of refine the product, do all of that kind of testing before we try and go bigger and scale, because I know about scaling issues. With GitHub, okay, so that's 2,000 odd people in New Zealand. The next steps include going to the US, which has hundreds of time banks, so we estimate about 25,000 users. We are currently talking with time banks in America to see what they think about these sorts of things. Of course, GitHub adopting that in any way with 3 million users, that's very quick. I don't know that we have an exact time frame on it. We mostly just want to get it right before we release it into the world.
I'm not quite sure where to start. Fantastic presentation. It's difficult because on the one hand you're dealing with a non-traditional form of currency which has a number of merits, but on the other hand social ventures also have to be sustainable in the real world. Can we nail down what the global revenue opportunity is so that this could be a sustainable business?
Well, the global revenue opportunity as we see it is in hours. Money is not the primary objective of this, but I'm going to pass over to Pepper to explain more.
Since we're making it open source, we also hope that a great number of developers will help us develop this system in a group and also in different iterations. And we kind of expect people to offer their time as it's available, as people with time banks do. And we'll be rewarding them with their hours. And this will be operating parallel to whatever else it is they do to earn their living, as we do with how we develop this. So that's kind of our intention with the system. And we view hours as a currency that does not devalue, unlike money. So that's kind of our perspective on the social enterprise model.
I just want to add that the objective, as we said at the beginning, was to help people. So the goal is to make it a growing, sustainable activity, not to see global revenue. And we think if people get excited, they'll be setting up time banks and adapting this themselves, and it'll be like Apache, it'll change the world.
So just to add on that, how do you define the social purpose?
Helping build community resilience. So the system does allow people to map which skills are available in their neighborhood and in the wider area. Particularly important after things like earthquakes, or of course when there isn't money around because there's been a massive financial collapse, as we've seen happen recently as well. And also including marginalized people, undervalued people. There are tons of people out there who, Yeah, there are tons of people out there who may not be formally employed in a number of ways, but that doesn't mean that they don't still have an awful lot to give to their community. And this would be a way of including these people so that they feel validated, so that they feel part of the community. Yeah.